Hello everyone and welcome to this speed build. Now in this speed build I wanted to get more into Romanian revival, but it's only Romanian revival inspired because I had never really heard of this architectural style before. I read a little bit about it and I looked at some pictures and I thought it was quite cool. And I wanted to replicate that loosely. Only loosely, because I've never seen it in real life and I haven't considered it in depth, so it's only inspired. On the off chance that anybody from Romania sees this, only loosely inspired. I do not claim any authenticity. Now the reason this is a speed build is because at the time of me recording this I was still pretty ill. I'm still not 100%, believe it or not, after over 6 weeks now. I'm so over it, but I can record things now and I think I'm on my way out of this immensely long cold. But while I was filming my other video that was up now with the bungalow, I realized that I didn't really feel up yet for a bigger build, and had I recorded the voice then it would have taken me ages and also ages to cut it, because I have to cut out all the coughs, whereas with this voiceover I can just hit pause when I feel a cough coming, so that's much more comfortable for me to edit at the moment. But I hope my Christmas builds will be back on normal health, hopefully. Anyway, back to the build at hand. I made a little family loosely, very loosely inspired by the Addams family. They have one daughter, a husband and a wife, and a Doberman dog. And I wanted the house to house them all, including the ghost grandma that also still lives in the house. So that's everyone in this home. And as I said, I looked at a few Romanian revival builds and I also read up on it. And what I read was that it was mostly a prestigious thing. Basically, they noticed they didn't have a famous build style and they wanted to make something really grand and world famous. So for that reason, the build style was mostly one, inspired by older architectural styles, and B, focused on what it looks like from the outside. So the inside, while also grand and beautiful, does come second to the outside, which is very ornate and very big and very detailed and very, very impressive. So I tried to focus on that too, build it basically outside first, make sure that it looks great from the outside, and then functionality second, with no trouble with like smaller rooms or weird shapes, because it is inspired by older architectural styles who were always kind of weirdly shaped, especially if you consider them nowadays, because they were never built from modern needs, so from a modern point of view it might look weird. So I wasn't really bothered with that. And for the outside, lots of balconies, lots of pillars, lots of embellishments, just a lot for the eye to look at. Very maximalist, very everything everywhere, and a good amount of balconies, a good amount of windows, just anything that can catch the eye a little bit. Regarding windows, I tried so hard to find windows that fit my idea of the aesthetic. And while the pack comes with windows, I actually used the windows it comes with sparingly. Same as for the doors, because those windows and doors felt not really fitting for the style of house I had in mind. And I was looking at the vampire pack, the magic pack, any pack that had kind of the same aesthetic in my mind, and nothing really fit the way I wanted it to fit. But then help came from actually the Stranger Well pack, of all things, because they have these ornate windows and they come in lots of colors that were really fitting, because a lot of the Romanian revival houses I had seen had kind of beigey or pastel-y colors on the outside, either that or very gloomy. And that was perfect, because for the aesthetic of the house, you will see this more on the inside, I wanted to mix the pastel-y with the goth. This is also why I had a family made for this loosely based on the Addams family, because famously the sets of the old black and white show of that were pink because that pops better. And so the idea of mixing goth aesthetic with pastels and pinks is kind of what I was going for with this build. And I thought it would match up quite well with the Romanian Revival architecture because it kind of does the same. Romanian Revival kind of mixes those more European old architectural styles with Arabian styles, more from the Middle Eastern influences, and it's really, really interesting and really, really ornate and festive and not necessarily heavy, dark and gloomy only. For me this was perfect because it allowed me to play with a few different styles and pegs, because I always love it when you can have intersectionality with the different pegs. I wanted this to be gothic, I wanted this to be death friendly, but I wanted this to also be happy and life friendly. It's the life and death peg after all. For the attic and certain parts of the staircase I used wood paneling, also for a little hallway section. And behind the windows I used a different color of wood paneling to kind of frame the windows with the wood. And then in all the other rooms I tried to use as many of the new wallpapers as possible because there's so many of them and they're so pretty. So we have the 3 bedrooms for parents, child and ghost grandma. And then of course stuff like living room, hallway, all these things. And I again wanted to use as many of the new wallpapers as possible. And then for the bathrooms, I wanted to use the pink color swatch of that bathroom set. Because again, what I said about the Addams family with the pink, but also we have a fucking pink bathroom set. Excuse me, of course I'm gonna use this. This is so nice and retro. It was really hard to find all matching pink swatches, especially with wallpaper and floors. So I went for different kind of pinks that kind of go together or are mixed. In the living room I went for a rich green, and that kind of blended very beautifully with the beige wallpaper, because otherwise the beige would have been a little bit too boring, and the heavy reds I didn't think would suit it so much. It would be a little bit standard, but the green I really, really liked. The living room being such a giant space made me want to section it off a little bit. I had the perfect TV couch nook, and then I had like the perfect little home office nook, and then in the middle with a giant fireplace that could be just an open space where you can sit in front of the fire. I wanted this to feel open, to remain feeling large. This is a large house, it should feel that way. But at the same time, it's a house that is old, that has a lot of little pathways, a lot of rooms sectioned off, and I wanted this to still feel like every part of this has its use. I was also trying to figure out, as always, what pegs go together, and I think that a lot of pegs go with this one, frankly, because it has these 2 distinct styles that are leaning more rustic or more elegant, and you can really combine them so well. And you can also mix and mingle the 2 of them. That is important to me as well, like if the styles are so separate from one another that you can never mix them, but you can see me here in this very room mixing some of the more elegant furniture like the couch or the kind of marble topped table with the more rustic ones like the chair. And I'm also adding a bunch of other packs in this, as well as stuff from the Reaper's Rewards event, because it's just fitting to put like the little gramophone there that like has this death tentacles coming out of it. Just very, very fitting for this kind of family. What I was consistently struggling with is curtains. No matter how many curtains we have never enough curtains. And it just proved true once again. I had a vision, I couldn't really bring that vision to life, and so I was struggling hard and trying so many things. In the end, going a bit more basic than I would have liked to, but it all worked out. A few pillows to make this more lived in also really helped. It's also individualizing the items so that the two chairs don't look exactly alike. And I really gotta say, the way this pack works with so many others is delightful. It just makes a lot of sense. Like when I put the rug here, the bear skin rug. Obviously a bearskin rug in such a house, duh, of course, it makes so much sense and it really pulled the room together in a different way. And then we also had a bunch of clutter items that was exactly the right level of elegant or creepy or old-fashioned to go with the house and the Addams Family vibe, because the level of Addams Family I wanted was into horror but nice family. Earlier I talked about how I built this for the outside first. It didn't work with this room because I brought this room one in from the outside. So one tile of the length of this wall is the living room. And all the windows being symmetric from the outside were horribly unsymmetric in this room to a degree that it was bothering me. So I changed it up here and pulled windows in a way that made more sense for furnishing the room, but in a way that I could still decorate it from the outside and it would make sense. This enabled me to get the family portrait in that room too. It's an early buyer's item. I believe you can still get it, but not for much longer. And it enables you to put the family portrait from Creatism into the build, and it's quite nice. This is also why I created an entire family beforehand, so I could have that. One thing I really liked about furnishing this build was the radiators everywhere. Normally having to remember to place things everywhere is bothersome for me, but to place a radiator in a build like this is absolutely satisfying to me, incredibly satisfying. This little hallway section, for example, doesn't have really a lot going for it, it's just a way to get to the kitchen. And adding a radiator gives a sense of functionality that it was otherwise lacking. You can also enter the bathroom from that hallway, and you can see now what I mean with the pink tones not completely matching. I managed to get the floor from the bar kit, I forgot its name, that has a more pinky swatch but also some yellows in there to tie it in with the furniture from the pack, because this has a more peachy fleshy pink and that fits with the wallpaper that in turn has some yellow in it. So if you can't match the pinks, you can try to look for secondary colors, which in this case is yellow because it's both in the yellowish gold from the furniture as well as in the wallpaper. But I really had a blast building this bathroom. The pink bathroom, come on, it's so iconic. And it's also a nod to this house being a little bit older. Potentially the last time this was tiled is a little bit ago, and the occupants have a sense for nostalgia, have a sense for the old. Clearly they are Addams Family inspired, so they just always kept it. Now the kitchen floor I was struggling a bit with initially, and then decided on this black and white one, which meant that I wanted to change the wallpaper, and I switched it to this black and red one, and it made it beautifully gothic. And of course, it really worked well with the kitchen swatches too. There would have really been 3 swatches I could easily use. I decided to go for the standard black one with a gold trim. It's the right kind of elegant and dark and moody, I think, for this family. And I wanted the kitchen to be big. It's a kitchen where you can also dine in. It's a large kitchen. Older houses often had super large kitchens where the family could come together and eat there. And then you had like the formal living room. And this is something I wanted to replicate in this. And ever since we had these backsplash items, I am kind of obsessed with creating backsplashes. Unfortunately, this time it didn't want to work 100%. But I had the idea to use like the wooden item instead, and that I think worked quite well and made it a little bit more elegant and modern. And I do love to give these old houses some modern touches that are still true to the character of the house. It just shows that people have been living there for generations to have things from different eras. Like if you are living in a very old building, realistically it will have things from different decades, different styles, because everything was updated at different times, and I love to incorporate that. The kitchen is another example of how well this pack works with others, given that the tiles are from the For Rent pack, for example, and the table is base game. It just all ties in together very well. Even the curtains are base game curtains I don't usually use. And the entire kitchen being so black and so red still doesn't look dark and overbearing. And that's because of all these things working so well together. Heck, there's even the perfect picture with the game-playing dogs. And there's the perfect chandelier from the kit, from the nursery kit. What else could I want? It's almost a little sad that I was so sick when building it, because in my recent builds I could really feel myself losing steam a lot, because I can't concentrate so well when I'm pretty sick. And this build suffers from it too a little bit, that I see, watching it back, so many details I would have loved to have added, but I didn't add at the time. But one thing I did make sure I do is that while keeping things similar, I give every room its slightly own identity. Like for example with the second bathroom, I picked a different table and not the wall shelves. Like the other bathroom had the wall shelves, this one has the side table. So it's the same set, but it's not an exact copy of the bathroom. I always like that because the rooms are different and they may have a different function. Originally when the house was built, they may have been for different people, like servants for example. So making sure to keep that in mind, that is something that I did with every room in this build. Because again, this is an old house that will have served many different functions over the years, and nowadays it's not built for our life nowadays, so you have to maybe adapt here and there, and that needs to be transported in the build. In true Addams Family fashion, I wanted the kids' room to be dark and gloomy, but still a kids' room with toys and fun things, but just, you know, very old-fashioned and aesthetic. And the nursery kit actually had a bunch of perfect items for that. I used this a bunch, including the circus tent baldachin element for the bed that I only mentioned because at first I forgot to use it, and then I will build some other stuff in other rooms and then realize I forgot it and come back to this and add it later. So at first it's not there. I also used the Goth Family Villa dollhouse that comes with this kit, because of course I did. And then again I tested the pack compatibility of the recent releases and was pleased. There's a bunch of different packs in here that all work beautifully together to make a goth-inspired kids room that still reads very much like a kid's room. Like, it doesn't feel like the room of, I don't know, an elderly lady. It's clearly a kid's room, and it's clearly also playful. Not only has it toys, but it's also playfully decorated. It's just playfully decorated in mostly blacks, and that's okay because our little daughter just loves black. Functionality-wise, it also has everything that a child needs. It has a toy box, it has the dollhouse, it has a desk to do homework on, it has a dresser, it has a bookshelf. Like, there's plenty of entertainment for the little one in here. It's just mostly a little bit darker and more gothic, but that's just how she likes it. The little, or not little, the big Reaper bunny is also quite adorable, honestly. As well as the lamp from the nursery kit. Truly cute. I also added the owl backpack because I figured owls work. It's on the wallpaper and it's kind of goth as an animal. Like, owls are pretty goth. So I thought that would work very well, as well as the elegant animals, the cats and dogs, because there's also something pretty goth about a gallery wall sometimes. And then I remembered these frames for the wallpaper and thought, perfect, that's so perfect. So I had to switch the wall art around a little bit, but look at it. It's absolutely great. It's just adding another playful item that doesn't really need a lot of extra stuff. Meanwhile, the room next to the daughter is the parental bedroom, and I wanted to lean more into the modern, and I wanted to lean more into the pink. Because to me, actually, the Addams Family couple is a pretty modern couple. Like, that was the entire persiflage, was like, hey, we're not the freaks, you traditionalists are. They were really modern, they were really open-minded, and I wanted this reflected in the furniture style, where I picked a more modern one that was still a nod to the classic and very, very elegant, which is, again, what I just associate with the Addams Family couple, the marital part. And you just know Morticia would put a lot of work into styling this bedroom. And the nod to the pink in the bedroom seemed perfect, together with a new bed, which is, by the way, such a good bed. But that again made me struggle with the curtains, because we didn't have curtains that were aligning perfectly, so I just used the same ones from downstairs, but in pink this time. Again, the nod to pink. Gothic, but make it pink. And part of that was, of course, a gallery wall. It feels very, very coded for this family and this build style. And this spec. The reason why I say it fits the build style is because what I read about the Romanian revival architecture is that it was a more modern take on the classic build styles. Like, it was not traditionally Renaissance architecture or traditional Baroque architecture or traditional Goth architecture. It was a then modern take on it. Just like everything in this room is a modern take on some elegant classics. And this way you can have a more modern room in this house and still make it look cohesive, because essentially it's what they have done with the entire house itself too. It still makes sense. You can have the modern elements in it, and it is still making sense with the rest of the entire house. Unfortunately though, this is where I lost the aforementioned steam when building this. At this point in real time, I was about 4 hours in, and I could really feel myself losing concentration. And I think you can tell that. I definitely would go ahead and change a little bit about this room, which is the grandmother's room. Now for grandma, I picked another one of the Reaper's Reward items, which is this giant building that is half burned, because maybe that's how grandma died, you know? Maybe this is an old picture of hers from when she was still alive and she keeps it around as a ghost. Maybe this was her old room when she was the lady of the house. Who knows? But I wanted this to feel like something really, really old. That's also why I used the broken swatch from the mirror from the basement pack. So it's still a little cohesive with the storytelling. That was important to me. I love building for characters and storylines, so that the fact that I actually built the family, made the family and cast this time so we could have them in the family portrait, made it even more important to me to have the story cohesive to what I had thought up beforehand. And I think that worked, but at the same time, grandma's room could have had a little more thought put into this. For example, I didn't give grandma a lot of things to do in this room. It's just merely a bedroom. And that is okay and fine, but had I not lost steam, maybe I would have done some more. Same for this hallway. The hallway has the bed for the dog and also a piano, because I thought people like this have a piano for sure. That was basically the entire thought behind it. And that's kind of what I mean. With more wind beneath my wings, with more brain cells still active, maybe there would have been a second thought too. And maybe that would have made the room more cohesive. And about now is where I realized, fuck, I forgot the circus tent one, and so I quickly added it to the kids' room. And then I returned to decorating the hallway. Now, once I'm done with this hallway, we will move upstairs. And upstairs has another bathroom because it used to be a functional part of the house. In my head, this used to be where the servants lived, but nowadays the house is run without servants. And since the family themselves has no real use for the upper level, it has become some sort of attic, a storage unit, because traditionally the quarters for the servants weren't that luxurious. They have the smaller bathroom, and they also have just a weird long room for like beds. That's all they got. And now it's kind of storage, but it's also functional for the Sims to use in day-to-day play, because this is where I place the chessboard. So you can play the chessboard here, but it's kind of visually, it's like the chessboard was in storage. One thing I also didn't notice until I did the tour was that I completely forgot the roof tiling. So you'll see the tour soon and it won't have roof tiles, but I will have added them later, and I put some pictures back because I also couldn't film the tour twice because I had weird problems with the camera. It was moving at odd speeds, and me being sick, that made me incredibly motion sick. So I was just trying to get it over with at that point, and I was like, I'm not going back to film this a second time just because I forgot the ceiling tiles. So my apologies, you will see a lot of stark white ceilings that don't match the aesthetic at all. Anyway, outside you can see I added a pool. I wanted to use the new pool trims for this. It was really fun with the dark furniture on the white tiles. But again, you can kind of tell I lost steam with this. Like, there was so much more I could have done with this backyard. I didn't even add a lot of flowers or greenery at all. It's a little sad. But I did add this from the For Rent pack. It's a different religion and a different pack, but the item is used to talk to the dead or communicate with the dead, and I thought that was very, very fitting. You can now also see me fixing what I meant about building for the outside first and symmetry, but then I had to ruin it with the windows being now not symmetrical from the outside. I just added some bushes and hid it, frankly. But I think it works quite well. I think this adds to the style. Genuinely, despite being sick and despite feeling weird and groggy and motion sick during this, I still enjoyed building tremendously because the style is just so much fun. I recommend everyone to look up Romanian revival architecture and to try and build in this style because it's a lot of fun. You can basically go all out. It's a mixture between so many fun things, and you can just really play around with it. And if you're not sick and if you're feeling up to it, you can really embellish this far more than I can. At this point, since I couldn't do all that because I was sick, just consider this something you can maybe add to if you want. Like, you can really grow in this place. But enough yapping, let's start with the tour. You can really tell how big this building is by the Sims running around in front of it. It's a really large house, but I think it's quite beautiful and the space is well used. It also doesn't feel that unnaturally big from the inside because it's so sectioned off. If we enter, we start with the hallway. The hallway has the aforementioned family portrait and not much more. It's a functional space. And then we enter the fun space. And you can also tell what I meant about the stark white ceilings. I will change that. I promise it's changed on the gallery. But still, you can tell that the living room is pretty comfortable and big. And just imagine wooden ceilings to just fit the aesthetic. From the living room is also where you enter to the backyard garden. I kind of made a custom fence post there because I had nothing that really fit with the style of the stairs. Back inside there's this small hallway that also goes off the living room from which you can enter the bathroom. And also the kitchen. You can kind of tell that my tour is a little bit wonky, the camera is a little bit wonky. I don't know why it bugged out so much, but it would like move at all kinds of different speeds, and I was already at this point pretty motion sick from the camera shaking and rambling so violently. I tried to keep it in check as best as I could to make your viewing experience a little better, but that's also why it's sometimes cutting at weird points, because the camera was just bugging out too much and you would also all have gotten motion sick. But I still hope it comes across how actually comfortable and cozy this entire house looks, despite being so big. But it also, I think, looks like it has creaky floorboards. Next to the parents, the grandmother's room, small, functional, but still with a touch of storytelling. I'm happy I didn't forget that. And then there's this other bathroom, which is right next to a balcony that I didn't go on because I was trying to finish this before I frankly throw up. On the upper level, the camera really bugged out, but we have the small bathroom and we have the storage unit with also the chessboard. Here's the proof that I really did go back and fix all the ceilings before I uploaded it to the gallery. I really enjoyed building this, despite being so sick and despite the bugs. I hope you enjoyed watching the video. Sorry for all the bugged camera work and all that. See you in the next video though. Bye!